Hey, Thursday night, the Chargers are back on the field, this time against the 49ers. And look, there's a few things that I'm going to be watching very closely in this game. We know it's preseason. We know wins and losses don't necessarily mean the most important thing right now, but this is where jobs are won. Depth charts can change. This is where a young player could go from being somebody we just talking about in training camp to somebody that makes the coaches say, man, we got to find a spot for this guy. And Jim Harbaugh has already told us that we should see some of the first team units for maybe a series or two. So how long will they actually stay out there? Will Justin Herbert play? What does the offensive line look like when the starters are all together? And then once the starters come out, I want to see some of these young guys. I want to see Trey Lance bounce back. I want to get another look at DJ Ukulele. I want to see Akeem Mesidor gets his first sack. And I want to see these young defensive backs and pass rushers take it up another notch. I want to see Jake Slaughter and the offensive line continue what they started last week, because now we're getting closer to the point where training camp practices is not enough. You got to show it in the game. And for some of these guys fighting for a roster spot, man, the clock is ticking. So we got a lot to talk about. I'm Stacy. This is Chargers Talk 4630. Let's get this started. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Chargers Talk 4630. Now, before we get started, do me a favor. If you enjoy the podcast, make sure you hit that like button, share the podcast, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so now. I definitely appreciate everybody who continues to support what we're doing over here. And also make sure you check out SLM Expressions, because I've retooled the website for the football season. Of course, we got a whole section dedicated to Charger fans, but I also expanded everything around the league. We got league standings with the win-loss records. We got live scores. So while these games are going on, you can keep up with the scoreboard right there on the website. And for everybody who loves fantasy football, I got you covered too. You can follow your fantasy players and keep up with what they're doing and checking their stats. We still got the live community chat, the fan zone, and a whole lot more. So as we get into this football season, I want SLM Expressions to be one of those places where you go to when you want to keep up with what's happening around the league. All right, let's get into this preseason game number 2. So a few things I want to see Thursday night against the 49ers. First thing is the starting units. Listen, Jim Harbaugh, I was listening to him at one of his pressers earlier this week, and he was saying the first team will get out there for a series or two. Now, how much playing time are they really going to get? I don't know. I would expect no more than maybe a series or two. Get those guys out there, let them get some live work in, and then get them out of the game. Whether Justin Herbert plays, I'm not sure. Harbaugh didn't say. It wouldn't surprise me if Herbert came out there for a series, and it also wouldn't surprise me if he don't play at all. But I do want to see that first team unit get together, even if it's for only a series, right? After that, I'm looking at these roster battles because we're getting closer and closer to decisions have to be made. And one of the things I'm definitely watching is that backup quarterback situation, right? DJ Ukulele had a pretty good game last week. Trey Lance, on the other hand, struggled. So now I want to see how Trey responds. Did he clean some things up? Can he play more efficiently? Can he move the football? Can he make better decisions? And probably the biggest thing for me is the accuracy, right? Because last week, man, he was off the mark, like by a lot. It was plays where guys were open and he just missed. Sometimes he underthrew the ball. Sometimes the ball just wasn't where it was needed to be. So I'm looking to see whether Trey Lance can bounce back this week and clean things up a little bit. Now check this out. You only got 3 preseason games to state your case. That's it. And we already know Jim Harbaugh has no problem playing somebody who's earned the right to play. If Trey struggles again and Ukulele goes out there and have another good game, things could get real interesting, right? If Trey don't bounce back, he could find himself on the bubble. Another guy I'm watching closely is Akeem Mesidor. I thought he had a couple of really good pressures. He showed off his strength. And on one play, he just tossed the starting left tackle for the Texans to the ground like he was a rag doll. He showed a quick burst in the short amount of time he was out there on the field. But other than that, it was a pretty quiet day. And that's okay. I want to see him get his first sack. He's had a really good camp. We've been hearing all about how he's been doing against Joe Alt. Now I want to see him put a quarterback on his rear end. I think once Mesidor starts trusting what he's been doing all camp and everything starts slowing down for him, those big plays are going to start coming and the sack's going to come with it. And listen, if we get an opportunity Thursday night to see Mac, Tui, Pelotu, and Mesidor out there together, man, tease us for a few minutes, please. Even if it's only for one series, I need that. I'll also be checking out the rest of the draft picks. This is their second live NFL game. So I want to see them continue to play well. You got that first game out the way. You felt the speed of the game. You got hit. You made some mistakes. You made some plays. Now, what did you learn from it? Because I don't necessarily need somebody to go out there and dominate, right? What I want to see is progression. Were you better this week than you were last week? I'm definitely watching this offense because I thought they were pretty good last week, right? I thought they were crisp. And look, I know everybody ain't going to be a football junkie like me. I understand that. But when you get a chance, and that's if you guys purchase the All-22 film on the NFL app, you get to see everything from different angles. The sideline view, the end zone view. You can slow everything down. And man, when you do those things, you see a completely different football game. You start seeing like who picked up their blocking assignments, who missed their assignments, who helped somebody else, who climbed to the second level, who recognized a stunt. Those are the things you don't always catch watching the game live, right? And Jake Slaughter stood out to me too. When you're watching the All Access, you get to see what the guys are doing in the trenches. I thought Jake did a really good job climbing to the next level and looking for somebody to hit. It was a couple of stunts where I watched him helping out the left tackle on a double team. Then a defensive lineman came flying around on a stunt. Slaughter recognized it. He released from the double team, and he picked up the stunt and moved him like a grown man supposed to wipe out a defender. Man, I can't tell you how many times over the last couple of years I watched this offensive line trying to pick up stunts, right? Definitely an indictment on the teachings of Greg Roman. So when I see a young guy like Slaughter recognize a stunt and pick it up, it tells me a lot. He's picking up things pretty fast. Coyote Awosika, Branson Taylor, Travis Burke, Logan Taylor, these guys are all out there competing. And when you break film down on the All Access, you can see who's doing their job, who's not, and who's struggling to pick things up. The offensive line has been a problem for years with this Chargers team, but now what was considered the weakest position may turn out to be the strongest. And think about this. They also signed former Oregon offensive tackle, a mountain of a man, 6'8", 325 pounds, Isaiah World. I just had to throw that out there because I know a lot of people probably forgot all about that signing. I mean, listen, in January this year, he was playing in the college football playoff semifinal game. He tore his ACL in that game, right? You had a well-respected beat writer that covered the Oregon Ducks like Zachary Neal, Lance Zierlein of NFL.com, and also Dane Brugler from The Athletic. They had Isaiah World as a late first-round pick in this year's draft. I think it was highway robbery that Joe Ortiz immediately signed him as an undrafted player after the draft. This offensive line is deep with talented players. Let me mention somebody else who I was watching on that All Access that I think made him look pretty bad, Scott Matlock. Look, I didn't think he had a good day blocking at all. I'm just calling it like I see it. There was plays where it looked like he was just getting in somebody's way more than really moving somebody, right? Those first few plays where the Chargers was trying to run to their right to attack the left side of the Texas defense, and get Kamani to the edge, Matlock was out there as the lead blocker, and he was getting blown up. I mean, it looked as if he wasn't even trying. Where was the effort, Scott Matlock? Like y'all who have access to the coach's films, you saw it. It was obvious. That's the type of stuff that jumps out when you slow the film down. You are what you put on film. So I'll be watching that game again Thursday night. I also want a longer look at KLS. There was that deep post where he was open down the middle of the field, and if Lance put that football where it was supposed to be, man, that would have been a walk-in touchdown. Instead, KLS had to slow down and wait for the football to catch up to him, and that gave the defender enough time to recover and knock the ball away. So with KLS fighting for that sixth receiver spot, I want another look at him. I want to see if he can create separation against a well-coached backfield like the 49ers, right? Can he make a couple of plays? Because these roster spots are very limited, and every opportunity matters, right? Amar Johnson, I need to see him again as well. He did a great job running the football last week. He's made some big plays, and he definitely got the coach's attention. But know what? Now you got to do it again. And that's what preseason is about for these young guys. You make us notice you in game one. Now you got to do it again. Show us consistency. Show us it wasn't just a one-game thing. I want to see what Nadane Tucker do in his second game. I want to see Kyle Kennard. Some of these guys were kind of quiet last week. Maybe you saw a play here or there, but both of these guys have been real impressive in camp from everything we heard. And Genesis Smith, he popped off the film immediately last week. The first thing that stood out was his effort. Scott Matlock, his effort. He was hustling everywhere. I mean, he was all over the field. He was physical. He was aggressive. Did he make mistakes? Absolutely. He gave up a touchdown. But what I liked the most, the mistake didn't take away his aggressiveness. He kept attacking. He continued to play physical with a lot of confidence, right? He plays like a guy who believes in his ability. I like that. He had that interception, and lucky for the Texans, he was out of bounds. But I'm looking at this guy, and I'm saying, man, the Chargers might have something here. Now, do Genesis Smith make this roster? I don't know. This team got a lot of talent, and it's only 53 spots. But I'll tell you this. If he plays in game 2 the way he played in game 1, and then he do it again in game 3, he going to make this a very difficult decision for this coaching staff. Jim Harbaugh already shown us that he don't have a problem playing young guys, right? He started 2 fifth-round picks 2 years ago in Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart. We saw last season he gave R.J. Mickens opportunities in a few starts at safety as a rookie, and R.J. didn't disappoint. If you could prove on the football field that you deserve to play and you've earned that, Harbaugh will play you. I'm keeping an eye on Junior Colson too. Colson is getting all the opportunities he needs to show us he can be the player that they drafted. Colson didn't make a huge or a game-changing play last week, but he was making tackles. He had 5. And I believe a couple was in open field. And that matters to me because we didn't see him do enough of that his first 2 years. Now, I understand he couldn't get on the field consistently. He battled injuries his first 2 seasons. But when he did get opportunities, sometimes he looked lost. Sometimes he looked a step behind. Sometimes it looked like he wasn't sure where he was supposed to be. But last week, he looked more like the player I thought we were going to see the last 2 years. He looked more comfortable. He looked like he belonged. But that's just one game. I want to see it again. Do it again. That should be the theme for a lot of these guys. Show me again. And I'm watching Justin Eboigbe. I think Eboigbe got a chance to have a big season. I want to see him working in that defensive line rotation, right, with Jamari Caldwell, Tier Tart, and those guys. There's some big-time competition on this defensive front. And I think Eboigbe is one of those players who could take another step this year, right? So when I gathered all my thoughts this week, those are the things I'm looking for in the second preseason game. Of course you want to win. Nobody goes out there trying to lose a football game. But the final score is not the biggest thing for me Thursday night. I want to see the development. I want these young guys to take another step from last week. I want the offensive line to continue to play well, right? Especially with all the shifts and the motion and the misdirection this offense is using. I want to see those guards continue climbing to the next level. And I want to see them continue giving the quarterbacks time in the pocket like they did last week. And I want to see them do a better job creating some holes and running lanes for these running backs. And for the guys fighting for those final roster spots, this is your opportunity. You got 3 preseason games. You already used 1. Now here comes game number 2. So if you're one of those guys sitting on that roster bubble, this is where you got to make somebody remember your name. Because pretty soon, and probably this weekend, Jim Harbaugh and his coaching staff are going to sit in that room and start making some difficult decisions. Like identifying players to cut, who they could bring back on the players' practice squad. I believe it's 16, right? I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I think off the top of my head, I think you could put 16 players on the practice squad. You could put one more in there for that international player pathway program, right? Their staff will be watching film on players that get cut from other teams. This is going to be a busy weekend after this game too. So these guys is trying to make this 53-man roster. You want to make sure you give them every reason possible to keep your name on that 53-man roster. That's what I'm looking for Thursday night. All right, everybody. That's going to do it for this edition of Chargers Talk 4630. As always, I appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch and listen to this podcast. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. Share it with another Chargers fan. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe right now. And don't forget to check out slmexpressions.com. We are so ready for the football season. We have updated Chargers content, league standings, live scores, fantasy football, where you can follow your players and their stats, the community chat, the fan zone, and so much more. I put a lot into retooling the website, and I wanted to become one of your sources throughout the football season. So check out SLM Expressions. And Thursday night, we get another opportunity to see what some of these young Chargers could do. Preseason game number 2. Another opportunity, another evaluation, and for some of these guys, another chance to prove they belong on this football team. Piggyback off what you did last week. Do it again. Do it again. I'm Stacy. This is Chargers Talk 4630. I'll see you guys on the next one. Both of them.